It's me, Percita, and this is Percita's Paradox. So here we are. It is Tuesday. I am so excited to see you. If you are a new subscriber, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for subscribing and giving me the opportunity to come into your space and give you words of wisdom and sometimes criticism. And if you are a always been there, absolute OG, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. So here we are again, Tuesday. I am so excited that we are over Valentine's Day. I mean, I really am. Not that that was a bad thing, but I'm just saying it was really you didn't know what to expect, right? I mean, was I the only person that was sitting around trying to figure out what to do and how to do it? And, was it too laid back or not too laid back, or how bougie did I want to be? Or it was just crazy, but good nonetheless. How about you? How was your Valentine's Day? Did you get everything you wanted? Did you feel like, you went around and, tried to eat out? I mean, it's kind of weird. California's still damn near on punishment. And I realized we're one of the last places, if not the last places, that are really not allowing a lot of dining and things of that nature. Everything's outside. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it is cold on all fronts throughout the United States. Of course, if you are one of my international subs, you might not be experiencing what we are in the States, but over here, it's snowing in Texas. It's blizzard snowing in Texas. It's extremely cold in the South. It's just been really, really crazy. So, thought I'd ask. Today, I want to actually sit back and talk to you about trust. Trust, right? And that's such an interesting word because when you say it, you instantaneously kind of get a little defensive. And you can't really help it because everyone wants to feel as if they are trustworthy. And everyone wants to feel as if they are truthful, right? And that you can be trusted. So my question to you is, what do you do when you start to realize that you may be with someone who's not very much so in a trust position? How do you handle that? I mean, do you put yourself in a place where you instantaneously push away and you start to just kind of just reconstruct everything you thought about the person? Or do you try to go piece by piece, point by point? Or do you give them the benefit of the doubt and say maybe they're not really being trustworthy in just this one particular area? I don't know. I think it's really a touch and go situation. I think it's such a hard dynamic to just put a concrete manner in it. I mean, most people say things like, if you lie to me, I'm done with you, and, you can't really start over. I don't know. I mean, I, as a child, did a lot of lying, to be perfectly honest. So it's very much so something that I can relate to because I understand where my brain power was not and how I really wanted to just fit in and kind of make everything work. And I didn't really want to work, but I wanted all of the expensive things and the lifestyle and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta have it. So you just kind of lie your way through, because what it really boils down to is that you can get it, but you don't want to do the work. Typically things that you lie about when it comes to stuff like that, it's based on the premise that you just don't want to put in the effort to do something different. So I digress and say, in the interim of you then trying to figure out what it is with your, let's say, relationship. Let's just use a relationship because that's easy. Be it friendship or romantic, right? Or even parental. How do you handle the distrust? How do you handle finding out someone is not being honest with you and feeling as if you have lost your sense of trust? Again, is it all at once? Do they put you in a position where you've taken and relinquished all their rights of trust? Do you then go through just that one thing? Do you ponder, again, everything that you've ever thought you knew about the person to try to reassess? I am in the space of really saying, I think I go through the entire person. And it's weird because I've always kind of taken on the approach of typically the person would only be telling me a fib about that. Maybe I can't trust them in this scenario. Man, well, I tell you, I don't know if it's COVID or if it's a pandemic or what it is, or just the time that you have to spend now with people, or just the fact that people are really showing their true colors. That has really gotten me into a space of, I just actually start to do inventory over the entire person and everything that they're about. And I must say that I am really growing weary on finding out things. And that's crazy to me because, again, coming from this whole identity of no longer lying and growing up into myself and, really have had the connotation on me of being, why would you listen to her? She's a liar kind of a vibe. it's weird being on the other side of the spectrum after all of these years because, I would say that, I've been on the wagon of lying for, over 25, 30 years. But there was a time, my God, that, I could actually say some stuff and you wouldn't know if you could trust me past the point of like the period of it, right? So it's weird for me because of the premise that I feel as if I've always been connected to understand why a person lies or why they put themselves in a place of allowing their actions to cause people to not trust them. Does that make sense? So in saying all of that, it feels crazy now to be as old as I am and have gone through what I've gone through and have always tried to take more of an empathy route when it comes to that, to now just a place to just share, discuss. And I don't know if it's because the people that I'm finding that are that way are not able to really express themselves in a manner to understand that they actually expect truth and trust to come off of other people, but yet they're not exuding it. And maybe that's what's pissing me off. Or if it's just the premise of, I don't know, maybe my expectations are just higher than that. And it just felt as if we shouldn't be at that place where you just can't be honest. I mean, it became a point for me several decades ago where I just kind of had to say to myself, like, there's just really nothing that I need to lie about. Like, there's no one important to me, or I should say even that important to me to have to lie about anything. Like, what's the point? If I did it, I did it. If you ask me, I did it. If I did it. And I don't really need to like BS myself or anybody about it, because I feel as if once you do what you do, you just say what you do. In the same breath, it's weird to then see, it feels like the older my family or friends or whatever gets, the less they feel the exact same way. It's almost as if these are the same people who basically used to tell me that I was BSing, right? And now I realize it ain't even that. It's really more of the premise of like they are BSing and they've been calling me BS because they've always been BS. So they're actually only identifying in me what they already had, which is kind of crazy. But I say all that to say, it's now crazy to try to figure out like, how do you assess it? I don't really want to play God. I don't really want to be in a position where I feel like, okay, now if a person, is untruthful about one thing that I can't trust them across the board. But I'm just being honest when I say it is super complicated to get back on the wagon of actually trusting someone. And we always talk about trust and respect and how it's built. But I'm starting to wonder if those things are ever rebuilt once they're broken. Does that make sense? Because I think it takes a lot of effort on both parties' part to actually make it work. And if anything happens that triggers you or the other person to remember why you didn't trust them in the first place, it's like no brainer. You literally go right back to the very beginning, no matter how you want to flip it. And that's crazy, right? But it's kind of natural. So I don't really know. Like, obviously, it's something to just ponder. I just wanted to ask you today, like, what exactly do you do in that? Like, how does it work? How does it really pan out in your life to get past that hump of you want to do it? Or do you just basically leave the person where they stand? Sometimes it's easier to say that than not. Sometimes these are people that are actually completely attached to you, be it people that you work with or people that you are related to, or I won't say in a relationship with, because I still feel like when you're in a relationship, sometimes you have the ability to actually get up and walk away. Other relationships, you really have to sit there and try to rebuild and, really try to make it work. It just depends on like how deep the connection or the commitment is. And I guess that's when it can get a little tricky on how exactly you kind of walk away. I mean, but I've seen friends and marriages and all kinds of stuff, all kinds of relationships that have broken up because of this distrust, right? Or this misuse of trusting each other and could never kind of recover. And then, of course, in the exact same breath, I could tell you that I've also seen them be able to heal. But it feels as if the person who did the deed would have to be willing to almost damn near like submit and become, I don't say subservient because that's such a horrible word for people to really like wrap their brain around. And I'm not talking about slave to someone, but it would be more of an attitude of they would have to want to really they would really have to make the person believe that they were better, right? Or that they were trying to do something different than what they normally had been doing in the circumstances. And let's just be honest, trust is really one of those things that you don't really recognize how important it is until you don't have it. And then all of a sudden you start to recognize how much you just cannot rely on anything without it. It's always interesting when we think about relations across the board. Even it's something as silly as like a teacher to a student. If a student can't really rely on the teacher to give the proper information, meaning they're giving them directions, but half of the directions are in their head or they're not really saying them, but yet they are grading them under a criteria that does not fit into the genre of what it would be. It is so complicated for then you to actually go and trust not only that teacher, but any teachers, because all of a sudden that experience leads you to believe that you are now needing to be prepared to be completely upset or, in a mistrust scenario with all instructors of education. So I'm now understanding, and I know this sounds crazy because I've heard it my whole life, but I'm now understanding that when you really have that disconnect of like what trust feels like when it's gone. That's the best way I can say it, because it's something when you realize you kind of give it to everyone off the bat. Like no one really walks into any situation and not trusting people. We say it. Everyone says like, I don't trust nobody. But truthfully, when you walk into any conversation, just even going to say the gas station and you're going to pump your gas, the moment that you literally slide your card in the machine, you're trusting that the card is going to be able to work in some capacity of electronics so that you can actually get the gas. And you trust in the bank to hold your money, to let that machine know that it's going to be able to execute the dispensing of this gas at that moment, right? It's only when you start to continuously go to gas stations and the machine doesn't work that you start to build up a barrier of distrust that you just cannot understand why you would ever trust it again. And you don't really know what that experience can do to you until you actually go through it. It's kind of something that you don't recognize when it comes to trust. You don't recognize it because you openly give people the room to just use their words and make their words effective, right? And make their line of communication effective. When they mistreat you in that, it is completely complicated to ring yourself back in. So when I ask, like, are you the type of person that literally gets up and just walks away immediately? Do you cuss the person out? Do you, confront the person at all? Or do you just, walk away and basically your silence is your answer of what it is? I don't know. I typically like to just tell the person no matter what it is that I feel offended by, because I've always used this biblical principle that just basically says that if you're angry with someone, you owe them the opportunity to be able to solidify the scenario. And if they don't, you then take another person with you so that, you have a witness that you also gave the person the opportunity. And if that doesn't work, then you basically could go to the church. And in our society, in this day and age, it would basically mean that you could put them on blast and it is what it is, right? So I've always, through my 40 plus years, tried to walk in that vein. I will say it can grow very complicated just depending on the individual or the circumstance or the situation, especially due to the premise of it all has to do with like how it's transpiring at the time and the place, right? But I will say that at this day and age, I really find myself just kind of like, walking away, because I'm noticing that the things that I'm most irritated about when it comes to trust or storytelling or lying or fables or whatever you want to call them that are happening and transpiring between me and any relationship that I'm having right now, I just don't have the time to really like give it any energy. And I know we say this whole thing with energy so much. Oh my God, it's like everything and everyone is talking about energy and the vibes, and I guess I'm just going to act like I am like everybody else and be in this whole mindset of like, it is some trueness when you just don't really feel the need to share any more of yourself with that type of a person. I am noticing that I'm falling into that. There really is no confrontation. There really is no usual Percita spectacle. I'll call it like that because it can get really interesting. And I'm now trying to figure out, is that age, right? I mean, is that just like old age? Is that just, I don't know, a disconnect from just like some type of selfishness that I'm going through? I don't know. I just wanted to ask, see how you felt about it, where you are, and what you think. So again, the question remains, what do you do? Do you walk away? Do you walk away? Do you confront? Do you find yourself actually being in a space where you just stop altogether and just stop trusting the person but kind of pretending? I love those type of people. I don't know how y'all do it, but the ones that just kind of like in their head know that the person is BSing, but just kind of keep them on the side because you think it's fun to like talk about them or laugh at them. I don't know how to do that, but I do find it funny that people can. So I say all of that to say, what do you do? What do you do? What is your MO and how do you work that? So hit me in the comments. This is just an ongoing conversation. I'm just going to start it here with this whole mistrust. How do you handle losing the trust of someone that you thought you had? And of course, I'm basically saying that, the person's clearly like lying, right? But lying is such a mirrored statement where, I've heard people say that lying is not lying unless you're actually being asked a question, right? So you can't really say that they're not trustworthy if it's just a matter of they're withholding information. Let me say it like that. And then, it is what it is. I mean, we can pretty well go back and forth about what we would think mistrust is. But my point is that once we've discovered or agreed upon what mistrust is or distrust would be in regards to the way you feel or the way the circumstances lie, my question is, what do you do? How do you handle it? Right? I mean, what do you do? What do you do? So I want to know. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what you do. Hit me in the comments. Definitely give me some feedback on what it is that you're thinking. Also, of course, hit me on the email if it becomes, easier for you because it's a little too personal. And other than that, the drill. I'm looking for you to do 3 things. Live life authentic. You know how crucial it is. You know how important it is. I've stressed it. I'll continue to stress it. Love yourself first. When you love yourself, you make it so much easier for other people to love you because you are able to communicate what it looks like. So, as always, I will see you on Thursday. Thank you for always staying with me and allowing me to do my ramble on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Don't forget to hit your notification button. Do not forget to make sure that you apply yourself to make some sense of gesture with that bell. If you do not know when my videos are coming and you're getting them late, or you're finding out later on or days later, hit the notification button. Black History Fact. Do you know the name of the person who started Black Entertainment Television, now currently known as BET and owned by Viacom? If you do, hit me in the comments. Maybe by the end of the month, I'll give away a gift to someone who actually has answered that question. I give you the question, but here's the irony. Today I'm going to give you the answer because I did say I wasn't going to make you answer it. But hit me in the comments if you knew it already. His name is Robert Johnson, and he and his wife started Black Entertainment Television well over about 40 years ago. And he sold it after 25 years of being on the market. And it was a fantastic dynamic for him because they were the first African-American billionaires in the media mogul world. Awesome information, right? He and his wife split, blah, blah, blah. She went on to open up a very exclusive horse ranch, I want to tell you, in the Midwest or back east somewhere. And Lord knows what Mr. Johnson's doing. But great fact, right? Fantastic. Had to get that in. As always, I'll see you guys on Thursday. Thank you so much for joining me and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.